are going back to Olivia Chow. She is providing an update now on the snow removal operations and the preparedness in the city of Toronto.
Can you imagine trying to navigate through that sidewalk? It's impossible. The sidewalk is not clear. There's no way someone with a walker, a cane, or even able-bodied, never mind on a wheelchair, can travel by and come and visit the Mount Shang homes if they have a loved one in here. And this current state of removal operations, particularly in the residential sidewalk, is just totally unacceptable. I understand how difficult it is to move mountains of snow in a short period of time. Last week, I was repeatedly told that 100% of the sidewalk had been plowed. I was told that this morning. I was told that last week on Friday. Well, I'm sorry, it is not true. And as I travel across the city, as I looked at all the calls that my office has been receiving, the logs, and as I've been talking to other councillors, it is obvious that the sidewalk is not 100% plowed. I don't know what percentage, but claiming it is 100% plowed is blatantly untrue. And I remember my mom, my late mother, who had a cane. She had a chair just like that, actually. She walked with that. And then later on, she used a walker. And then later on, she used a wheelchair because as she got less and less mobile, she actually broke her hip. And there was no way that I could possibly wheel her, if it conditions like that, to visit my dad, for example, who was in another long-term care home. Both of them have since passed. But this is just unacceptable. We need to do more. We need to do better. Seniors, people, pushing stroller, getting grocery, or just normally walking on the sidewalk, right? So all Torontonians deserve to move around the city safely. This morning, I issued a letter to the city manager. I have copies of it for you. The letter is addressed to the city manager, the auditor general, to improve city snow plowing and removal policies and practices. This will be debated, discussed at the executive committee. We are specifically asking the city manager and the auditor general to review options immediately to deploy other city staff from other departments to support snow clearing and removal in collaboration with labor leaders, which I spoke to one this morning. He said, yes, whatever you need, we are backing you up. We want to do a full review of the winter maintenance operations, including how to optimize the resources and review the contracts. Let us look at the options, including renegotiating or breaking the contracts, which Councillor Paul Ainsley will talk to you a lot about because he was there when the contract was signed in 2021. Improving the maintenance of the city's fleet, and possibly purchasing heavier winter equipment. Investigate the gaps between what is reported to us, 100% sidewalks clearance, to what is the reality. How did we get to the gap? Why is there a gap? And how could anyone claim that is beyond me? And also investigate this snowstorm, the 53 centimeter in 10 days major storm, evaluate our city snow removal, and look at the recommendations on the improvement. Specifically, evaluating the sidewalk, the fleet, to determine whether they are maintained in an optimal way. We need to act quickly. Toronto needs to be safe for everyone. In a few days now, the temperature is pretty, it's rising. Things are melting. But on Thursday, Friday, the temperature is going to drop. And what I'm concerned about is icy sidewalk. That is dangerous. People will get very hurt. And we've seen that happen before. I also want to thank the good neighbors that have been shoveling snow for their neighbors, for their friends, and we thank you for caring. We thank you for helping each other out. Torontonians have each other's back. The city of Toronto must also have your back. I'm happy to turn this over to the contract expert, the chair of the government committee, the one that have raised a lot of questions in 2021 and 2022 about the contract that we were signed that locked us in for 7 years? 7 years. Councillor Ainsley.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor. Good morning, everybody. I'm City Councillor Paul Ainsley. I'm in Ward 24 in Scarborough-Guildwood in the east end of the city. I also chair the General Government Committee, and I sit on the Service Excellence Committee for Mayor Chow. As a city councillor, one of my first things that I always say to people when they talk about city services is they want value for their money. And I say to them, I pay the same property taxes that everybody else does. I live in this city, and I want value for my money. And as the chair of the General Government Committee and sitting on the Service Excellence Committee, one of the things that I've endeavored for the mayor is to make sure that we all get that value for your tax dollars. And a lot of it is very simple. It's the small things that count. People want their garbage picked up on time. When they turn on their tap, they want the water to flow. And when they walk out their front door of their residence, whether they're going to work, the library, a rec center, visit relatives, they want to be able to get from point A to point B. When the contract was originally put forward in 2021, and as a city councilor, I like to do my due diligence. I did a lot of research. I called companies that did snow removal because at first glance, reading the contract, I couldn't understand how this was going to be achieved. So I called construction companies in other municipalities that did snow removal. I sit on the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. I'm on the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. I was able to phone a lot of my colleagues around the province and get their input on what they did for contracts and snow removal. And the thing that I heard loud and clear from everybody that I talked to is the contract that we were going to award at Toronto City Council was not going to work for our residents. There was going to be a raft of issues from not getting the snow cleared properly because we wouldn't have the right size vehicles if we had the proper vehicles at all. Staff we were going to have trouble hiring people. We were going to have trouble training them properly and getting the job done. And every winter I go out and I see issues like what's behind us. And it's not getting any better. Here we are almost a week and a half after the last snowstorm, and I still have to look behind me at a sidewalk in front of a senior's home, for example, that's not plowed. I'm still getting complaints from my residents that the streets, if they were plowed once, they weren't done properly, if they were done in a haphazard manner. And I'm going out and having to work with staff or call staff that are supposed to be out there monitoring the contractors and getting it done. So things have to change. I'm very happy to be here with Mayor Chow and my colleague, Councillor Sachs, because things have to change. People expect, as I said, value for their money. They want their tax dollars to work. I want tax dollars to work. And when I tell my residents you're getting a service and it's going to get you to point A, from point A to point B, I expect that to be achieved. So I'm looking forward to the report of the executive committee. I'm looking forward to getting some answers from staff. And I want to thank the mayor for putting this forward and recognizing that we do have an issue and that things need to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions, folks? Yeah.
Some closer contract lawyers and industry experts, they said they haven't seen the contracts, but they said there might be a hefty fine that needs to be paid to cancel or negotiate it. Is that something you're willing to pay?
Well, we will look into it. That letter that I issued specifically said, let us examine it. What is the options? How much is it? What is the cost? Can we actually find ways to improve it without breaking it? I don't know. That's where the legal and the experts will come in. What I do know is that the contract or what the company, the numbered company that are delivering the service is not doing their job. Okay, that much is clear. Now, last year in 2024, there wasn't much snow, so I wasn't alarmed. But even just a day or 2 or 3 days after the big snowstorm, it was a huge storm. I was being a bit patient. I was asking people for patience, but I'm done. This is just not acceptable. I looked at that contract that was signed in 2021. Part of it is sole source. Other part of it, it's totally controversial. Other part of it said, well, did you include, why are you giving land for people to park their vehicles? There were so many questions. Can you find where's the equipment? Is there GPS in the equipment? No. It needs to be all in the equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So the Auditor General, in fact, subsequently had issued quite a few reports. And I am not clear as to whether those recommendations has been followed at this point.
I'm sorry, I have a follow-up to that. Transportation Services has gone on the record with my colleague here and said the equipment is top of the grade, best on the market, everything is fine. Residents are confused. Can we set the record straight that Transportation Services is not communicating transparently with the public?
You're right.
And I think
half of the you can come in on more. Half of the equipment that they have on plowing sidewalk that belong to the city is it's not working. Don't tell me it's working well.
Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to add, I said in the contract, when you say X number of vehicles to plow roads, and you don't stipulate what size the vehicle is, whether it's a 1-ton truck or a half-ton truck, I was like, that's an issue. And I heard that loud and clear when I talked with other municipalities. And I see that when you have a half-ton truck going down a 2-lane road, plowing down the middle of the road and not going each way. When I have a sidewalk snow plow going along a sidewalk that suddenly stops partway across a residential street before a school, and I say to the driver, like, what are you stopping for? Like, what are you backing up? He's like, my plow's not big enough to do this work. He goes, the snow's not heavy. He goes, I just don't have a sidewalk plow big enough to do the work.
Mayor, this isn't the first time that there have been issues with this contract. The Auditor General flagged a number of issues, and still City Council voted to drop the penalty system for that. So was that a mistake for the majority of councillors to vote in favor of not holding this company to account? And will you try to reverse that?
Yes, absolutely. I don't think I asked the city manager that. I don't think he even knew that was done until it was shown that it was done. That's how it went to council. Okay, so this whole contract, the city's relationship with the contractors, one could go deep into it. It's before my time. I hate to keep the 2022 snow removal was apparently was terrible. Yep. And that it did not work in 2022. It resulted in the Auditor General issuing a few reports in 2023. I think it was in June that it came out. Again, I wasn't here yet. Now, last year, I wish, because there wasn't any snow, I didn't realize things could have gone sideways this much, but now we do.
If this contract is such a disaster, if it's so bad, people in the city are looking for answers. Who should be held responsible for this? Is it John Tory? Is it somebody else? I mean, who should be held to blame for this?
Well, you voted against the contract.
Yeah. So, when this contract was put forward, and, I always like to joke that I'm Scottish and I like to save as much money as possible. Part of the rationale for consolidating all of these contracts together was to make it easier to manage, that we were going to save a lot of money, but the truth is borne out right here, and it continues to be borne out each and every year. I said to my constituency staff last week, in comparison to last year, are we doing better or worse? And they said, well, we're doing better than last year, but there was a lot less snow last winter. A year ago, they said the complaints are about the same. And I said, one of the things, you know, kind of the carrot and the stick that we have to hold over anybody doing work for us is fines and penalties and clawbacks if you're not doing the job that you're contracted to do. And having staff take that away, you know, lessens the accountability. And for me to go out as a city councillor, and it's like, people will say to me, well, just penalize them. I was like, well, we took the penalties away. Staff took penalties away, and we find out on the floor of council, right, that things can't be allowed to happen like that.
Ability within the contract.
You said somebody, sorry, Mayor, you said that you've been told 100% of sidewalks.
Yes, I was.
All right. Who told you that? And what consequences are there for?
There will be consequences. The transportation department manager. Well, I've communicated that to the city manager, and he said that he will look at consequences. Yes. Ultimately, myself as the mayor is responsible. Unfortunately, I wasn't here when the contract was signed, and the contract was locked in for 7 years. And can I break the contract? I don't know. What is the penalty? I don't know. So can we do better? Absolutely. And that is why I am here to say that we have to change. And we will make the change. And whatever it takes, we will make it better. But I came in, inherited this contract, and I'm here with someone that voted against the contract. If you want to ask the councillors that voted for it, be my guest. And it wasn't me.
There's many people with disabilities, and the sidewalks obviously we have issues with sidewalks. Are you concerned about them not being able to make it Thursday to go voting? And is the city doing anything about that?
Yes, we are. I met with the city manager this morning. I said, I don't know, I don't care what it takes. Just make sure that every polling station, especially if it's in city facilities, are clear, and the roads around it are cleared, because people, it's their fundamental right to be able to get to a polling station.
Contract for the contractors, or if the councillor knows, because inevitably the city is going to be facing lawsuits from slip and fall cases. So how much of that, if any, can be transferred to the contractors?
You don't know, yeah. We don't know that, which is why you saw the letter that I released has a large number of clauses in them. And we are asking everyone to examine, both the auditor, the legal department, the city manager, to examine all of those options.
Mayor Chow, you said to go after you voted for the contract, that right now the blame falls on you because you're the mayor. But should a certain level of blame or culpability fall on the previous mayor because he was in charge of the time of the agreement?
At this point, it's no pointing figures. Well, I'm glad my staff was able to give this person a hand in order to get through that mountain of snow. Good God. Sorry, I just, it's right behind you. Thank you. At this point, pointing fingers, some people like to point fingers. At this point, let us fix the problem, okay? And then we will look at who should, what other actions needs to take place.
Because you were there in 2021, you moved the motion that wanted to pump the brakes on these contracts, you and along with other city councilors. This is reminiscent of Pay It, but in December 2021, why was the council pushing to move forward with these contracts? What were the reasons they were giving to you, Councillor Fletcher, Board Perks? What were they saying?
Yeah, and so the rationale, as I said earlier, there was a lot of talk about let's rationalize this. one contract is better. We can save a lot of money. And once again, as I did all of the research, I was like, you might be saving money, but if you're not providing the service properly and you have to go back and plow a street twice because the truck is, it should be a 1 ton and it's a half ton. If you have a sidewalk snowplow that's not the right size, we're not saving money because the contractor is going to come back on us and say, you're demanding more. We're fulfilling what we do on the contract. We plow a street and now you tell us to come back and do it again. Well, if a contract's written poorly and they say we're adhering to it, we only had to provide 360 vehicles. It didn't say anything about 1 ton, half ton, snow blowers on them. If they can get through the loopholes of a contract, they're there to make a profit ultimately. But as a municipality, we're there to provide a service and make sure our residents get the best value for their tax dollars.
Last question. Okay.
Or go ahead.
Yeah, well, just back to what you were told about the sidewalks. You weren't personally the only one told that all sidewalks had been 100% done. At one of the briefings that the city held, I believe it was the DM of Transportation Services, told the entire city that all of the sidewalks had been done at least once. So were they deliberately misleading the public? Were they just misinformed? Can you shed any light on exactly what happened there? Do they not know what's going on in their own department?
Can I take part of this from my perspective? Sorry, I can take.
You want?
Yeah.
I
I was just going to say quickly, sorry, as the geeky counselor on city council as well, one of the problems that I find with the Plow TO app, like all of these vehicles are supposed to have GPS in them. The problem I find with the Plow TO app, you go out, they say that a section is done. I had a large section of my ward, according to the Plow TO app, hadn't been touched. And when I went to staff, they're like, yeah, it got plowed. And I was like, well, you have no proof. The Plow TO app that's available to me and my residents, I said, the contractor's saying one thing, Plow TO app says another, and I have to bring it to your attention that the streets don't get plowed. There's a technology issue there as well.
And we are just hearing from a frustrated Mayor Olivia Chow talking about the snow removal operations in Toronto, calling them unacceptable. Even the sidewalk behind her says it is not plowed. She says she is done telling people to be patient and changes will be made.